We're on the air. Welcome everybody to the Go For It webinar, Overcome the Resistance and Achieve Your Goals. Nice to see some names that I recognize already in the list. Joy, yes, lovely. Wow, what time is it where you are? Must be middle of the evening. I know there's some people from the US here. We've got people from my friends from Brussels, from Italy, from Germany, from the UK, Holland. Oh, wow, 3 a.m. That is dedication. Man, if you don't achieve your goals after this, then I don't know what, I don't know what you need to do. That is dedication and commitment. Yeah, 1 a.m. Joy, you're over on the East Coast, aren't you? So I know we have some people, do we have some people East Coast USA here? Just type in if you're with us. I really want to appreciate those of you who have gone the extra mile in order to be online with us. Hi Camilla, yeah, Joy, West Coast. Hi Miri, Alyssa, yes, Lisa, hi. Is that Lisa from Brussels? Valerie from Switzerland, great. Beverly, nice to see you. Russell, Sam, Sam up in the UK, good to see you as well. All right, now I'm going to spend all this time saying hello to people, so let's get on with it. Let's move forward and get through the formalities, and then we can get into the information. I want to give you as much as I can in the time that we have that you can use. But I do have, of course, to just go through so you know that this is just general informational, educational purposes that I'm providing with this. Whilst SET's simple energy techniques, the tapping approach that Dr. David Lake and I use and have developed together, and what I'm calling intention-based energy techniques, I'm going to share with you today a new way of using intention to release emotional attachments and restore energy flow and reconnect you with your highest intentions. While those techniques have been working for lots of people, there's no guarantee that they're going to achieve your goals or be as pain-free for you as they are for others. So you need, if you're going to participate in this, agree to take full responsibility for your own physical and mental health and consult your physician and or therapist, particularly if you're dealing with severe mental health issues. Couple of ground rules. I may take questions. I'm not sure if I'll have time to take questions via the microphone, and sometimes the technology is a challenge, but I will take some questions via the chat as we go along. If we do get to speaking, you cannot speak with me unless you have a headset or headphones. Otherwise, I'm going to have a nasty echo and upset everyone else on the line. Now, tap along and you'll gain benefits. For those of you who are not familiar with tapping, you're probably thinking, what is this tap along? I'm going to very quickly review the simple energy techniques approach that we use, which is a process of tapping on acupressure points, and it's absolutely fantastic for releasing the emotional blocks that are preventing you from achieving what you want to achieve. So I'm going to go through that very quickly. I know there are plenty of people here who are advanced tappers in EFT and SET and TFT, the various tapping approaches that are used. Hi Megan. Good on you. I know Megan as well. We are recording this. By participating, you agree to have your chat and anything that you say recorded and kept in evidence against you. I am, just like anyone who does one of these programs, I have decided to put a special offer together for those who stay till the end, and especially for people who are attending the webinar. That does not mean I'm not going to give you full value. I am. My intention is to give you as much as I can in the time that we have that will help you to get over this issue once and for all and be able to go for your goals 100%. Hi Tim from Barcelona. Denise, yeah Denise, nice to see all of you here. All right, here's very quickly what I'm aiming. It's my intention to go through looking at goals and intentions. This is what the webinar is about. I'm going to review, as I said, the simple energy techniques, tapping, give you a few guidelines for using that to apply it to achieving your goals and getting in action, particularly to achieve your goals, because this is the big challenge that everybody has. Now I'm going to give you some of the basics of this, what I'm calling intention-based energy techniques. Someone said to me a week or so ago, you need to put it into a package and you need to release it at a high price and you need to do da-da-da. I said, no, I'm just going to teach it to people. So I'm going to teach you some of that today. I can't teach you everything about it, but I'm going to give you enough to make you dangerous. And I think you're going to be really pleasantly surprised at what you can do with that. And we'll do as much as we can of applying those two techniques to release our emotional attachments that are getting in the way of us being able to do what we want and restore our energy to flow and getting ourselves to a position of clarity so we can make good decisions. Yes, it is, Sylvia. It is sunny here in Perth, West Australia. Isn't it beautiful weather here at the moment? Man, oh man, if I could, I'd turn the webcam out here to show you the sky, but I know that all my friends in Germany and Europe will get upset, although things aren't bad all the way up there, everywhere, I realise. All right, so that's nice. You can see the sun. Oh yeah, and Sydney, man, oh man. I hope people there are able to get online because I know they've had disruptions because of the storms and stuff. So hopefully you're, you guys are okay. All right, I just want to show you this beautiful picture of my son Callum. Those of you who know me know that I have 3 kids. My eldest Josh has turned 21, and I have Callum, who is 16, and his twin sister Olivia. Beautiful little family. And this is Callum, my son, just here. First time he went on a roller coaster. Do you reckon he's enjoying that as much as maybe I am? Because I've been on plenty of roller coasters with before this. And this is up in the Genting Highlands. His first time he went on there, and it's sometimes the first time you have a few up and downs, it can be really a bit of a shock. So the key is, are you enjoying the ride of life, and can you handle life's ups and downs, and can you go from where you are to where you want to be? That's the question. So let's start with that, because I want to look at what your goals are. Lovely to have you, Laura, from the Canary Islands. Nice to see people still coming in. Ruth, lovely to have you online, Ruth, from up in the UK. Great to hear about your seminars and stuff. Sorry, this is just old homework. I'm just catching up with friends all over the world. But let's do this. Let's move on. Let's because I know some people are going to be watching this on the recording. They're not going to be happy if I spend the whole time just saying hello to people. What would you like to achieve? Let's start there. What would you like to achieve as a result of attending this webinar? What are the changes that you want to make? What are the things that you would like to have, do, and what kind of person would you like to become? How would you like to be in your life? And if you were one of my clients working one-on-one, I often start with people working on, problems and challenges and get over them. At some point, I always say, where do you want to go ultimately? Where would you like to go ultimately in this? If we get over this problem, if we make this change, where would you like to go ultimately? What are your ultimate goals? And maybe, we can make this a little bit interactive. People can type in a few of those things, because I'm interested in working with you on that. And I want you to have that in focus, because that's what this whole program is about. It's about helping you to be able to achieve the goals that you set, to be able to follow through and do what you need to do to get that to happen, and to be able to do that consistently. Because so often we start things, but we don't necessarily go so far as to finish them. So that's what I'm really interested in. And while people are typing in there, I'm just going to put this up, because this is a process that I've been using for many years, and some of you who've done some of my programs will be familiar with this process, the 7-step process that I'm using if you want to be successful. And nice to see some people starting to type that stuff in. So we're at step 1, defining success, what success is to you. And some people think that's all there is. You decide what you want and that's it. It will all come. Well, if you know me, you know my opinions on that. Good things don't come to those who wait. And one of my favorite quotes is, it's a Chinese proverb, man who stand on hill with mouth open waiting for roast duck to fly in must wait a very long time. So let's have a look at some of the things that people want to do. Jane, want to finish my book. Bernadette, excellent health, vitality and energy, fantastic. Denise, finish the job, want to do things differently with my work going forward. Hope to step into my power more instead of taking what comes my way. So what would that mean? how would you like to do things differently, and what would it mean if you were stepping into your power? What types of things would you like to be taking on instead of perhaps, what you've just been getting, and so on. Wow, Megan starts with an definite intention. I will have a 6-bedroom house on a large block with a garden, his and hers wardrobes, 2 lounge rooms with a games room for the kids' computers. All right, sounds good. Okay. Um, Eve, I want to write a book about my life. What is stopping me? Well, good question. I'm going to look at that, and we're going to move through that, because see, here's the thing: the minute that you do this, the minute you do what we're doing right now, the minute you decide what success is to you, or you decide something that you want, then you're going to have some barriers to break through. I call them the BS barriers. They are your blocking beliefs. So BS stands for belief system, maybe not what you thought it means, and that's what you have to overcome. And I'm going to share some strategies for overcoming those things. I also believe that you can't really be successful unless you know what your true values are. And some of you have done work on values, and you know that values are the things that are most important to you in your life. I consider that some of the values that are driving you right now are ones that were hotwired into your nervous system. They may not be your values, they may be your parents' values, or they may be ones that you've inherited, or they may be ones that you've adopted just to survive. And so I think it's really important to clarify and work out what your true values are. And sometimes that's what's happening, is that we're being pulled in different directions by those internal, I want this and I want that. I want that, but this is pulling me over here, and so on. Until you've done that, I don't think you can really set goals. And so a lot of people start with goal setting, but it's an ongoing process of working out what you really want from what you want. So I don't think you can set a goal unless you know what you really want from that, and what you really want is what you think that will give you, and that's the value that that's meant to provide you. Then once you've done that, once you've set your goals, it's an ongoing process to build your commitment, to be willing to prepare and plan and do the things that are needed, and ultimately to take action and persist. And persistence is the biggest thing that makes the biggest difference between those people who are successful and those who aren't in all kinds of areas. So I'm just going around back looking at some of the, oh, nice to see you, Shelley. Good to see you here. Just some of the things that people have put down here: enough wealth to be time free. Karen, happiness and peace of mind. High flying career, happy family. ARP, I'm not sure who that is. Jacob, good to see you from Czech Republic. Clarity on goals, more confidence about setting them and pursuing them. Yeah, sometimes we have challenges in setting our goals. I always believe that's due to not being clear on what the underlying values are that we want. Because once you know what your values are, setting your goals becomes a lot easier. And so that's the challenge. I know we have a lot of EFT practitioners and tapping practitioners on here who want to move their businesses forward. Hopefully you can use these techniques to help you with that as well. Because here's the challenge. When you set a new goal or an intention, your unconscious blocks immediately come up as if to try and stop you. It's just uncanny that they go together. In fact, I believe they go together because the reason why you desire that is because unconsciously you know that there's a part of you that needs to be healed, or there's a disowned part of you that needs to be brought into the world. And that part might be your courage or your confidence or your your commitment or whatever. So some people call this the resistance. Seth Godin, I really like his stuff, and if you want to read a good book, read his book called Linchpin, and he talks about getting over the resistance to deliver your art to the world, because you are ultimately a creative person, and when you bring something that's from you, you bring something unique to the world. And that resistance, he connects that with what he calls the lizard brain, the primitive part of our brain that is trying to keep us safe. Anyway, his book's a really, really good book. And what happens is that manifests in procrastination, self-sabotage, avoidance, all kinds of things. And our challenge is to overcome that resistance, because ultimately, if you're really going to be happy and you're really going to be successful, it's going to be because you're able to do the things that you can't do now, or the things that you're currently doing now, you change to do things that are more enhancing and take you more in the direction of your goals. Because we're all guilty of losing energy in avoidance behaviors. You know, I might want to put down some of your own right now, because you know, and I can tell you some of mine in the past. You know, anyone who's read my on our website, my articles on self-acceptance, where I really didn't accept myself, and I was really you know, it wasn't just self-anger, or, you know, it was really self-disgust that I got to with this, where I was playing games on computer instead of doing my work, making myself more and more sore and tired from playing these games, rather than doing what I want to do, or what I thought that I wanted to do. And turns out I did, and I just needed to get an opening, to get a freedom from that. And unfortunately, this process of self-abuse and self-recrimination and guilt for not doing it, that's actually part of the cycle that's causing us the problems. So you have your problem, you know, which is that you, for example, you know, you want to write your book, and instead you're watching daytime television, or you're you know, you're cleaning the house instead of doing the work, or finding anything else to do, you know, or dithering on Facebook, or whatever it is, or, you know, eating chocolate, or, you know, eating lots of food, whatever we do to try and so we have that triggered reaction that we then try and fix, and then we have the problem after that, which is where we get into ourselves and we beat ourselves up and we're down on ourselves and we're guilty about what we shouldn't have done and so on. And that guilt and that lack of acceptance of self and self put down is actually part of what continues the process. It's meant to try and fix things, but it actually makes things worse. And so when you're going to target something with your processes like tapping or whatever, it's a good place to start, because I always say, when when you have a problem, often the first thing you do is you get angry at yourself for having that problem, and that anger at yourself is like puts a lid on the problem and kind of holds it to you. And so when you use your techniques like tapping, or, you know, the intentions that we're going to use today, first place to start is on that. All right, so here's a couple of assumptions of where we're going. Everything that happens to you, the source of every significant change in your world, is actually coming from what happens in your inner world. And so the techniques that we're going to look at are they're not only useful, but they're really useful if you apply them to your internal, what I call your command center, which is the part of you that directs your thoughts and feelings and actions. And you know, that's actually stronger than just, you know, the part of you that's just having a reaction. I want to get into the part that's more controls more significant parts of what you do, like your beliefs and your values and so on. Because when you get that stuff sorted out, then you get into alignment and you feel congruent and you're essentially happy. That's our goal. And I have this concept called 100% yes, that it's my intention to help you to move towards, and that is to get into this state where your energy just flows, where you're riding the horse in the direction it's going. I know there's a piece of Sioux Indian wisdom that says when the horse that you're riding has died, the best strategy is to dismount. But often we keep trying to flog the dead horse and do all kinds of things to keep it going. When you're in the yes state, you're going in the direction that everything's going. Everything seems to work for you. All parts of you are actually working towards the same ends, and you know this is what you want. The concept I have is like when you're a little kid and say you really love going to the beach, and, you know, your parent says, do you want to go to the beach? You say, yes. It's 100% yes. There's no parts of you that are saying no to that. And yet as adults, because we've learned all the things that we can't have, or, you know, we've had situations in our life where we didn't get that, or we got the opposite, or we got punished instead. Now when we go towards something, we're like, oh yeah, but I might not get what I want, or I might get something else. So what's causing this resistance is ultimately fear. And a couple of big fears are fear of failure and fear of success. And some people think they have fear of failure, and I have to tell you, having worked with thousands of people on this kind of stuff, that a lot of people who think they have fear of failure actually have fear of success. And if you want to test this, Think about being successful in whatever way you want to be successful. Try and imagine that, and try and feel how that will really feel, being successful. And most people, when they do that, won't feel totally comfortable. There'd be part of them that's saying, no, you can't have that, or, oh, you'd have to become a bad person to be that, or whatever. And these are your unconscious blocking beliefs that are coming up. Those beliefs are also triggering the fear feelings and reactions. The other thing that's a big thing that causes it is internal conflicts between your values. Churchill called this internal civil war, where part of you wants this and part of you wants that. I want to make a big difference in the world, but I also love being lazy. And the challenge is that sometimes both of those want to win at the same time, and it's like whichever one wins today is the one that's going to control my behavior. And sometimes the wrong one, as in a lower value, is actually riding over the top of a higher value. And if you consistently have a situation where your lower values are winning over your higher values, that's going to be the recipe for misery, for procrastination, for self-sabotage, and lots of self-starts. False starts. And these are, in essence, these are all emotional attachments. And as we know, one of the great ways of treating those is using tapping, because ultimately, if you want to be successful, you've got to take control of your emotional state. So here's a photo I love to show of my good mate, Dr. David Lake, in a down moment. Anyone who knows him knows that he almost never gets into that kind of state, but he got into that state once up in Berlin, and I snapped a photo of it. He is actually putting it on a bit for the camera, but you notice that he's tried what a lot of people do when they want to change their emotions, is to put a substance into the body to try and change the way that he feels, because this is what we do. And this is a very common process, because everything we do to try and change the way that we feel. All right. Now, a lot of you know one of the great techniques for treating this is tapping, and you have our own version of tapping. We call it simple energy techniques. Many of you know EFT. How many EFTs do we have on here? How many people know SET? Just curious. Just just type in if you know SET, or if you an EFTer. Okay, great. EFT. Wow. Okay. Wow. All right. We've got faster EFT practitioners. Okay. Someone's saying the sound is very clear. Is that true for everybody, or is that just true for one person? If you can all let me know if there is a problem with the sound that's consistent for everybody, or can you hear me okay? Because sometimes that's to do with your own personal connection. I am hoping that the recording will be good for this. Seeing lots and lots of EFT practitioners, some SET practitioners. Well, it looks like about 50-50. Of those things. So obviously these people are all hearing me, and the sound is, sound is good and clear for some of you. This is the challenge with technology. I'm blessed because so far my connection here is working, and let's hope it stays good for the rest of the time. So now these are the tapping points that we use in SET. For those of you who are familiar with EFT, they're also the same as in EFT, emotional freedom techniques. And the process is simply tapping on these points using two fingers of your dominant hand. So this is kind of the basics of it, and this is just a review, and it's also for those who are totally new to this. Just give this a go, and let's start doing this now. And if you are already a tapper, then if you know us, then you'll know that we say tap the whole time, because even while I've been rambling on so far with this high quality stuff, some of the issues and challenges for you are tuned into your system. So you don't have to wait until you have a problem in focus. You can just start tapping, and you can also tap while focusing on a specific problem. So let me just run through these points and go through these basics just very quickly for those so we can all be on the same page with the tap, and then so you can do this for the rest of the time. So first point is on the top of the head here, and you can just tap that with a number of fingers. And then we're tapping on the start of the eyebrow on either side. So you can tap on either side of the body when you're tapping on these points in any order. Some people like to tap on both sides at once. So it's just at the start of the eyebrow, side of the eye, under the nose, under the lip, under the collarbone, close into the center, and under the arm. And when you're tapping, you can just be mindful of whatever you're noticing. We've also noticed that you can tap directly where you focus on problems, or you can indirectly just tap and get the benefits. And the more tapping you do, the better the results that you're going to have. But if you have a problem and you're focusing on that, just tap on those points. And while you tap, just notice what's happening in your thoughts and what's happening in your body. You can focus on whatever you're aware of, whether it be thoughts, whether it be feelings, whether it be body sensations. And you don't have to say anything while you're doing this. You can just tap on those points and focus on what you're noticing. So if I do that right now and just go inside and just notice, and I've only shown you half of the points. What's happening for me right now? I just scan through my body and just notice what's happening with my emotions. And yeah, as I put my attention on my chest, I notice that just opens up a little bit more as I'm tapping. And you know what? A lot of those tensions are in our body without us being aware of them. So when you get stressed, when you have a challenge, when something's blocking you, almost always there's a disturbance somewhere in the midline here. It might be in the cheeks, jaw, throat, chest, diaphragm, stomach, or even further down in your core. Some people have feelings in their tension in their shoulders, tension in their body. Just notice what's happening in your body and just tap on those points. And also we tap on the hand, and I'll just try and get this. I'll put these points up so you can see where the points are in the diagram also while I'm showing you. And you can tap on the side of the thumb and all of the fingers with your, with two fingers on either side. And while you're doing that, you can either focus on the problem or you can just notice whatever you notice. And that can really work very well, just tapping. And then you tap down each of the fingers. So this is level with the nail on the end of the index finger, middle finger, ring finger, little finger, and on the bottom of the hand. Now this tapping process that we use is a more continual process, different to EFT. And we find that if you just tap and you just notice and follow what's happening for you, then you can get a long way. And in terms of this issue, if you are focusing on a problem, you can focus on the thoughts, you can focus on the feelings, you can focus on the body sensations, and you don't have to try and force anything. Just notice what's happening, just accept whatever's there, just allow it to move and do whatever it does, and then just follow the thoughts or the feelings. So if I have a thought that's upsetting me, like, I'm worried about how I'm coming across, or I'm worried about the sound and that stirs me up, I can just focus on that thought and I can tap. And as I do that, I notice that I become a little bit more relaxed about it, because there's nothing I can do about that. So it's just something that I just have to go with and flow with and just see what happens. And, it'll all work out all right in the end. And the funny thing is, tapping works on the negative. Focus on the negative thought or whatever negative emotions that you're having. Then when you apply tapping to them and they start to move, automatically you start to notice all kinds of other thoughts and possibilities. So now, just quickly, we also like to teach people to tap like this, using the thumb of the same hand to tap on the finger points of the same hand. So I'm just letting the thumb drop down onto the side of the index finger, and then the middle finger, and the ring finger, and the little finger. And if you want to be smart, you can also just wrap your index finger or your middle finger around and just tap on the side of the thumb as well. But you don't have to do that. You can just tap up and down those finger points with your thumb. And that process is portable. You can take it anywhere, particularly into the situation where you are stressed and where you have to go and take action, and maybe there are fears and things that are blocking you and stopping you from doing that. So I'm going to recommend that you now do that for the rest of the time. So even if you're having to hold something or whatever, if you've got a hand free, you can just tap on these points. You certainly can tap on all of these points, but I know some people are accessing the stuff in public places and listening to it and so on. You can do this fingertip tapping unobtrusively, out of sight, and you can also just touch or rub or hold the points. And if you do that for the rest of the time, you'll get some tapping into your system regardless of what happens next. All right, so I want to tell you about this new approach that I've discovered, and I'm calling it intention-based energy techniques. Um, it's just a working title. It's the use of intention to release emotional attachments, restore energy flow, and reset your intentions for what you want to achieve. And it's really, really powerful for this process. I know that because I've been using it on myself on these kinds of issues. And so far, every single client and every single work participant that's used this has found it helpful. That doesn't mean it works for everybody. I haven't done enough research to know that, but it's a simple process, and I'm going to teach some of the key parts of it to you and send you away to try it and see what happens. So what happened was I had a heel spur at Christmas just gone, and so I was laid up for a while. I couldn't get out, couldn't exercise. I was in a bit of pain every time I put weight on my foot. So I basically spent a fair bit of time sitting down, and I was a little bit frustrated. So I started doing the tapping on my problems and frustrations. And all right, so Tim says it's occasionally fading. Can you just everyone let me know if that's happening for you as well? Okay, surreptitious tapping. Sound is perfect. Sound is okay. Okay, surreptitious tapping. Yeah. Okay, sorry. I was reading one higher up in the chat. Sorry, Tim. Yeah, the chat had actually scrolled down, so the sound is still good. Okay, so so for anyone who doesn't know tapping, I was just tapping on the fact that I was stuck, and I was tapping on the fact that I wasn't able to go anywhere. And if this might relate to your issue, in terms of your goals, it's the same kind of thing. Although I did have an excuse, it was just frustrating to me. And yeah, so we have 2 or 3 people saying the sound is fading, but most of the people are saying the sound is good. So hopefully it'll pick up for you. It's sometimes just a case of your connection. So I was doing the tapping, and I'm just tapping and just letting my stream of consciousness just go through all the things that are frustrating me, and not just with my heel spur, but where I was in my life. And it may seem remarkable to some people watching this, but I have, just like everyone else, ups and downs. The roller coaster happens for all of us, and we go through moments of doubt and so on. Frank Farrelly, my mentor, said, he said to me one day, he said, my research shows even heroes and heroines get weak, sick, and tired. And that is the case. And thank goodness, in our approach, we don't have to try and pretend not to be human in that respect. So this is the human condition. And, when you get physiologically upset or you have pain, man, that can really change your thinking as well. So I was using tapping. I was also using a wonderful approach called logosynthesis, which is created by Willem Lammers. And I highly recommend that to you if you haven't looked it up. You can get online. You can put in the words logosynthesis primer. I'll send to you a link, and you can look that up. After this, I'll send those of you who are on the list, I'll send you the link. For those of you who are just watching this recording later on, just look up logosynthesis primer. You get a free primer written by Willem Lammers and Andrea Frady, our good friends. And Willem is the creator of this approach. It's a fantastic way of using intention to retrieve energy that you have caught up in problems that have happened to you, and to release energy that's not yours, that you've kind of got stuck in your system, and to retrieve the energy from your reactions to various things that have happened to you. So I was doing this. I was using tapping, and I was also going through, and there's a guy named Robert Middleton who's he has action plan marketing. I really like his stuff. He's a down-to-earth guy, and he is a student of Byron Katie and also a student of non-duality. And so he has come up with a process for applying this to your marketing. So I was, okay, I've got some issues with my business and, marketing things that I'm not doing that I should be doing, things I'm not doing in my business that I'd like to be doing, that I feel stuck. So he's got an unstuck process, and it's based on Byron Katie's process, the work. So I was using that process. I was using the logosynthesis. I'm doing the tapping. I should mention I'm doing a little bit of TRE, trauma release exercises, and shaking. I just, throw every technique in and see what works. And it just occurred to me at that time that I had got into the mode again of doing a lot of tapping on problems and not a lot of tapping on my goals and intentions. And it's a funny thing when you do this. Tapping and these processes are great for fixing up problems. But if you never ask yourself at any point, where do I want to go and what do I want to create and what do I want to have in my life, then you just keep finding problems. And so that occurred to me. Something else happened. I was reading Byron Katie's book again. It's a fantastic book called Loving What Is. And this statement jumped out at me. And that is that it's not the thoughts that we have that are affecting us. It's our attachment to the thoughts that causes the suffering that we have. And, some of you know that, some of you know this quote, that you can vividly imagine something and your brain and your nervous system can't really tell the difference between something you vividly imagine and something you actually experience. And so, we can create images of things happening and have it be as if it's really happening to us. And unfortunately, we do that in a very negative way usually. We think about all the doom and gloom that could happen, and that's presumably so that we can work our way around it. But often it seems that what we get hooked into doing at times is we think about the doom and gloom that's happening, the tragedy that will happen if we don't achieve our goal, or the fact that they'll laugh at us, or whatever it is, or they'll reject our thing, and then we live there and live in that emotion as if that's real. So we've actually attached to that non-reality, and certainly that's the case. Yeah, Mao's. I'm not sure if I pronounced it right. Mao's is saying, is this something that can affect gamers? It affects everyone on the planet. It's what we do. I remember a few years ago in Australia, there was a part of Queensland that was having Moors, sorry. Pronunciation. I blame my Aussiness. Anyway, I was watching the news one night, and they're having this cyclone coming. There's a big cyclone coming into parts of Queensland, Cyclone Yasi. And they go into the town, and they interview people. Hi, how do you feel about the fact that the cyclone's coming tomorrow? And one lady, she's just completely distraught, and I could see her looking over there, and I knew that she was accessing an image that she had in her own mind, and she just says, "Oh, I can just see everything I own just being blown away." And she's completely distraught. I said to my wife, I said, she's having the cyclone a day early. And this is the truth, is that I mean, it's bad enough dealing with what might happen, but actually, usually what we imagine is not necessarily what's going to happen. We're capable of imagining things to work out, okay, we need to plan and prepare. But in this case, she was preparing herself for a negative result that never happened, because the area that she lived in hardly got touched by the cyclone. But you tell that to her nervous system. See, when she's imagining that, she's dumping all kinds of stress chemicals through her system, suppressing her immune system, all that kind of stuff is happening because she's attached herself to that image, to that thought. Now, we're capable of having those thoughts and being able to prepare without having to emotionally attach to them. And that's what I've learned. Actually, you can use a range of processes to release your emotional attachment to thoughts that have been controlling you your whole life. Because it's not the thought that's the problem, it's the emotional attachment to the thought. And tapping, of course, works to release some of these emotional attachments. So if you want a quick way to use tapping, to release an emotional attachment to a belief, you can simply focus on that belief and do the tapping. So Trish, you're saying, what about distress at something really happening somewhere like Iraq? Absolutely, we have mirror neurons, and it's capable for us to have empathy for other people, but sometimes that we go a little bit further and actually experience it as if it's happening to us and completely disempower ourselves and wreck our own immune system and our capacity to act, actually, by stepping into it. One of the things I like about Byron Katie is that she says, the good thing about having separate bodies is that when you are suffering, it's not my turn. And see, if I'm suffering as well, then I'm no good to you. And so this is the difference really between empathy and sympathy. And in fact, it's not just sympathy, it's actually going into things. And, I realized at one point after doing this work that a lot of my problems in my life have been because I've gone into things rather than being able to look at them from outside where you can work out what to do about them. And that place allows you to be helpful in a way which is really useful to the person, rather than experiencing the distress yourself and disempowering yourself. So yeah, Ruth, it's helpful to think with love than to look on with fear and distress. I agree totally. So the work of Byron Katie releases attachment through a process of inquiry, and she gets you. Her process is a wonderful process of looking at everything that you're attached to and reacting to, and asking, is it true? And I was using this process as part of this kind of cocktail of stuff that I was doing, and it just occurred to me, what if we could just use intention? See, in the logosynthesis approach, you use intention. And you use intention to release energy that's not yours, and you use intention to retrieve energy that is yours, that's bound up in problems and has got caught up in problems. And since learning that, it's occurred to me that can't be the only, it's not as if there's only 3 sentences that we can use with intention to get stuff to happen. So I came up with this intention in that moment. And that is simply directing my intention to release my emotional attachments to the problem that I was focusing on in that moment. And so I want you to give this a go, because this simple intention that I have on the screen right now has absolutely done profound things already for a whole bunch of people that I've used it with. It seems ridiculous that something as simple as this can do that. Now, I personally believe you combine this with tapping and you accentuate and accelerate the processing of this stuff so that you can release those attachments, so that you can end up in a place of clarity. So Sue says, what about the fear of letting go of what's been familiar for a lifetime? Absolutely. So let's take whatever it is that's been familiar to us, and let's just start saying, I release all my emotional attachments to this, whatever it is that's familiar to us. And then let's notice where that goes. So, just as recent as last night, my wife was, she said this morning she was wrestling with all kinds of issues and concerns all night, writing submissions and for stuff that she has to do for her art in her mind. And she said she wasn't able to go to sleep until she said, I release all my emotional attachments to getting to sleep. And that's the thing, because when we're not sleeping, one of the things that we do is we become really upset about the fact that we're not sleeping and worried about all the consequences. And so it's our attachment to those potential problems that we need to release. So pick something now that you believe is blocking you, and just give this a little go, and simply say whatever that problem is, whatever that, if you have a past event or something that's just happened, or an image in your mind, or a belief or a thought that's stopping you. So go back to some of the goals and intentions that people brought up, like someone wants to write a book. You think about writing your book, what comes up that's stopping you? And let's just say, okay, whatever that is, I release all my emotional attachments to this thought, or I release all my emotional attachments to this image of me failing, or whatever that is. And let me just read here some Alyssa, staying associated in someone's trauma is harmful. Oh, yeah, that's just in regard to the discussion that we had before. So this is a simple process. Yeah, okay, so Megan, I release all of my emotional attachments to my fear of not having enough to offer. Now, when you do that, that might not be the target that's stirring you up. So, you might go, okay, you notice the thought, maybe I don't have enough to offer. And so you apply this intention that you say, release all my emotional attachments to this, to this fear of not having enough to offer. And then where does that go? What comes up next? Since you're here, Megan, why not? Just type what happens next for you, and we'll do a little bit of a case study. And anyone else that wants to chime in with something, you can do that as well, and we'll just see where that goes. Yeah, okay, so instantly, just doing that simple intention, you're using your own intention to release your attachments to whatever it is that you've become emotionally attached to. And so now it moves down to your stomach. So now you've actually got a feeling in the body. So now we move on to another type of intention. And what I discovered was a two-step process. And the two-step process is actually starting by releasing your emotional attachments to problems, events, images, beliefs, thoughts, and so on. And then using your intention to restore the energy flow. So now just say, I restore the right energy flow to my stomach. And just notice what that does. Funny, just saying that just then, I noticed my breathing went a little bit lower. So even without knowing it, there's a little bit of tension down there. I say I restore the right energy flow to my stomach, and things start to open up. So Megan's saying release it straight away. Yeah, this is what I'm noticing, is that these kinds of things move through very, very quickly. Yeah, Kate had a bad headache and use that phrase while tapping and it's gone. Fantastic. Fantastic. And maybe if it's the head, just restore the right energy flow to my head or to the back of my head or wherever that is. Trish. What do you mean, bitch? What do you mean? You're upset about Kate having such a good reaction? Or, oh, excuse me, I haven't read earlier. You're serving a close friend who's dying. She's being a bitch to me. Not sure what I should release my anger or her dying process. Okay, excuse me. So I'm just catching up with you. So you know what? You don't know what the main thing is that's triggering you necessarily. You just start doing it on that. Okay? You can say, I release all my emotional attachment to her being a bitch. I release all my emotional attachment to the fact that she's dying. I release all my emotional attachments to whatever else that comes up for you. I release all my emotional attachments to, it could be to the belief that I shouldn't be angry or whatever it is. And then just follow what that does and see where that goes. There is, I've been using this long enough to start to be able to work out how to target it with people. Obviously here it's a little bit harder because all we have is the chat. And we're already up to 49, 50 minutes, so I'm not going to play around with the with doing the audio part. I'm just going to be able to give you kind of the overview. And you know what? I've given these two statements to people, sometimes in just a 5-minute chat, and just said, go away and use it like a buckshot approach. Just apply it to everything. I did this with the managing director of a leading legal firm, a top 15 law firm, and within 5 minutes he was accessing material from his early life and reprocessing that stuff very, very quickly. So for those of you who know tapping, you often find the past events and things that are stirring you up. This process helps you to move through those past events that have caused your problems much, much more rapidly. Thanks, Megan. Yes, Megan was part of this public speaking webinar series that I have, and I know you've actually used it a lot. And just for your information, Shazza, who was in that group, just came to the Sydney workshop and did a 10-minute presentation demonstrating how well she's got over her own public speaking fear, and she's using this intention process all the time in combination with tapping. And I'm telling you, this lady is going to be Australia's top comedian. She's funny and she's brilliant, and I'm going to put that, if I have her permission, I'm going to put that up on YouTube. I'll send it out to you. You can see the kind of results that this stuff can get. Yeah, you can do this anywhere, anytime. So even if you're in a place where you're a little bit worried about even doing finger tapping or whatever, you can just use these intentions and start to process stuff. Now, here's another way. Here's another piece of this. When you have a problem, you start with the problem and you start by saying, I release all my emotional attachments to this problem, whatever it is. No, Julie is saying, should you keep repeating the intent? No, you don't need to do that, because you're actually addressing this to your unconscious mind and it knows what you need. You don't have to keep repeating it over and over in order to do that. But what you may need to do is to adjust the target in each case. So as soon as you said, I release my emotional attachments to this, thought or whatever it is, then just let it process for a little while and see what comes up next, and then apply it to the next thing or the next part of this. And then you say, I restore the right energy flow to this particular body area. Here's a little distinction. If you start with a feeling, sometimes you can just start by saying, say your chest is tight. You can say, I restore the right energy flow to my chest. What I've found is that that doesn't work as consistently if you start at that point. What you want to do is to search for whatever thoughts or incidences or whatever are triggering that, and do the releasing statement first. Now, sometimes you do this second statement, it will work straight away and work really well. But often you won't get full relief on that until you've started to release some of your emotional attachments, and then you've got this kind of residual thing in your body, and now you go, okay, I'll restore the right energy flow to my chest or whatever it is. And then when you come back to a place of clarity and calm, now set your intention. So if we can go back to, let's go back to, I don't know, someone give me a problem. Let's see if we can do this. I prefer doing it rather than talking about it. So let's see, we might even get 2 or 3 of these. So I see Ruth typing. Come on, typers. Just going to have, if you have a beverage, feel free to sip while we're waiting. Okay, so Jesse, the first thing is can't shift weight. Okay, so since that's the thought, you start with that and just say, I release all my emotional attachments to can't shift weight. You don't have to say to this belief that I can't shift weight. Just state it as it is, or as it comes up in your mind. You know, so if you think, oh, I can never get over this, just say I release all my emotional attachments to I can never get over this, and then just see where that goes. Okay, and see what happens next. Ruth says I want to hide, so you just say I release all my emotional attachments to wanting to hide, and then just notice what happens next. Okay. Where else are we? Okay. Yeah, Thea, I can't release and won't move forward. Okay, so just say I release all my emotional attachments to I can't release and move forward. And okay, Anita's saying I set my intention to moving house. I'm going to move on to where you start with intention, but now we're kind of let's start with the problems and let's just see what that moves into. Okay, so Patricia, you said having cataracts. Okay, so you go, okay, I'll release all my emotional attachments to having cataracts. You probably will, you may not notice much with that because that's like a global thing, but it's more like what might be really triggering you is thinking, oh, these cataracts are going to cause me to go blind, or these cataracts are, you know, whatever is your reaction to that, or what you believe that that's going to cause that's really triggering you. So yeah, so Jacob, you say feeling shy, wanting to express myself. Okay, so what's likely to be triggering is a belief that you can't express yourself well. So you say, I release all my emotional attachments to I can't express myself well, and then just see what comes up from that. Now, what's the trigger behind that might be a fear that if you don't express yourself well, you're going to be laughed at. So then you go, I release all my emotional attachments to this being laughed at image or being laughed at thought. And then you see where that goes. Now you can, yeah, someone's asking you to go through all the 3 statements on each issue. No, you can do that releasing one dozens and dozens and dozens of times before you move on to the next one. In fact, sometimes you may have to, because you need to be working through different aspects of the problem. So for those who are familiar with tapping, you'll know that you need to work through aspects sometimes and different parts of this. And you know, sometimes behind that is the thing that's really triggering you. So let's you know, let's do that, and then once you've done that, you can then go to, okay, you know, where is this in the body? You know, sometimes people won't be able to become aware of what's happening in the body. Other people are already very bodily aware. So if you're very bodily aware, you can try starting with the restoring the energy flow, and then just notice where that goes and what comes up from that. All right. Yeah, sometimes the aspects that have come up will be the key to the next release. Sometimes, in fact, you'll just feel clear. And it's surprising how clear you can become quite quickly after doing this, and how quickly you can move through different aspects for those issues. So let's ask a couple of people who started this just where they've gone with this, because I know, Ruth, I know you would have done it and kept going. You did on I Want to Hide. Where's that right now, and what's happening with that right now? And Patricia, having cataracts, what have you done with that? Where's that gone to right now? Let's just very quickly see that. And while you're doing that, I'm going to try and answer this from Una. Do you go through? Oh, actually, that was your question. You can cover a number of aspects on one issue. Absolutely. All right. So I'm just gonna. So I notice, that I'm thinking, okay, the time's running out. So I go, okay, I release all my emotional attachments to the time running out. And instantly, I feel a little calmer about that. We don't have to rush. We still have time. Okay, so where are we here? What happened to the heel spur is that I spent enough time relaxing it for things to get better. I do believe you can probably start to use these intentions to heal. And so you set your intention to heal, and then you notice what blocks and barriers come up from that. Yeah, so Ruth, you said brought it here, release easier to be defeated than to win. Okay, so now you've had the thought that it's easier to be defeated than to win, so now you just apply the process to that. You just say, I release all my emotional attachments to it's easier to be defeated than to win. Okay, so I set my intention is actually what we are here for. So let me move on to the final part of what I'm able to show you today because of the time, and that is the 4-step process of using this for creation and for manifesting your intentions. See, where you start when you're setting a goal is with an intention. I set my intention to write a book. I set my intention to travel around the world. Megan says I set my intention. Well, she says it as an I will, because she's done some work with me on definiteness and willingness. And I will, and she describes the exact house that she wants to have. Now, the minute you set an intention, what comes up? Your blocking beliefs and your emotional attachments. So as you set your goal and intention, up will come all your unconscious blocks. They come into consciousness. Now you can start to release them. Yes, you could just apply tapping to them, and you can go through those emotions and those thoughts with tapping, but I'm suggesting you add in this process of intention and just use your intention to release the emotional attachments by saying, so you set your intention to write a book, and you have the blocking thought comes up, they won't like what I have to write. And so you say, I release all my emotional attachments to they won't like what I have to write. Then you notice where that goes next. Now, you may then access a memory of where you were in school and you wrote something and the teacher gave you an F. And so you say, I release all my emotional attachments to this memory. And then you notice where that went. Okay? And then, you just scan through your body and say, okay, I've got a bit of tightness in my diaphragm. You say, restore the right energy flow to my diaphragm. And when you're at the point where you're feeling like your energy is back in flow and you're clear, now you can go back to your intention and either restate it or reset it. Because I tell you what, after you've done this process, you might find that the intention you started with isn't what you really want to do now, because you've cleared some of the emotion that was driving that, and that was actually a craving you had, and that's not what you really want to do at all. Or you can actually set your sights a bit higher, because before you were limiting yourself based on your emotional blocks and things that were coming up. Yeah, you can release your emotional attachment to being confused, Trish, but and see what that does. You can, like I said, just do this buckshot on whatever you want. Okay, so Patricia, yeah, lost your driving license. You can say, I release my attachment to losing my driving license. And then you'll need to get into what that means to you that you lost your driving license, or what it might mean, or what it's going to cause you, or all those things, and release your emotional attachments to all of those things as well. So this is the basic process And this process, you can go over the recording of this and go through it again, and hopefully it'll make more sense. And because ultimately, what we want to do is we want to go through and release our emotional attachments to past stuff that has hurt us and past stuff that is now controlling us and constraining us and stopping us from doing what we want to do. We can also apply the intention to future fantasies and projections that are negative, which are stopping us from being able to move forward. So Patricia says, makes me feel old. Great process, Steve. But the way you wrote that, it comes across as if the process makes you feel old. But I get what you mean. Yeah, this is one of my favorite pictures of me and my kids, and you know, it's. I was searching for some way of showing, you know, that when you release these attachments, you're able to be present with what's happening in your life. And as Byron Katie says, what's really happening is a lot more. It's I don't know what words she would actually use, but it's nowhere near as bad as the world that we're imagining that's out there. Because when we deal with what really is in front of us, and we only have to do that, and we don't have to deal with our projections about what might happen, particularly when you set a goal for something that you want to create, you know, your mind will come up with all kinds of projections based on past traumas and things that have happened to you. You know, you've failed before, so you release your attachments to those past failures. You've got these projections that you might fail in future, you release your attachment to that. Then you can just deal with what happens. And dealing with what happens is so much easier. All right, well, I notice I've gone over time, and how easy is that? And for me, it's very easy. So an hour is such a short time. You'll be very surprised how helpful this simple little process can be. I've used it with so many people, and like I said, just without even totally understanding it, you can just go away and apply those sentences, and I'm sure you're going to notice a whole lot of big shifts, and I'd love you to let me know what happens for you with that. I mentioned at the start that I am offering a program. Of course, you know, we can't do much in an hour, and I can't do free programs all the time. I want to do this and give you, you know, for those of you who can't afford to go further, I know that you're going to get benefit from doing this. I also want to make a program that's as accessible for as many people as I can, and the great thing about online is that now I might be able to do that. So I've come up with a program. It's going to be an 8-week program. It's aimed at supporting you to overcome resistance, take action on your goals. For those of you who stay to the end, I've got an offer for you which is going to be better than anyone else who gets this later, and an extra bonus for you just for actually putting the time to wake up and come and do whatever you needed to do to get here. So this is going to be an 8-week program. There'll be teaching modules which I'm going to produce via video or podcast. I haven't made them yet, but my son Josh has got a really good camera. He's going to film these for me. I'm going to put them together. I'm going to alternate with video and podcast because I know some people like to listen to stuff as they go, and you can't do that with video. But the core of this is that I'm going to offer some coaching sessions, and I'm going to take you through the process of applying this to your resistance that's stopping you from being able to live your life, live your values, take action on your important life goals. And I'm going to do 6 hours of coaching total. We'll do 4 sessions of 90 minutes, and we'll work through issues that whole time. And we'll be using the SET, IET, and also the provocative energy techniques that a lot of you are familiar with, that Dr. David Lake and I use, which brings in a lot of humor and a lot of good positive energy. This whole program is about changing from the inside out and getting your vision and your values and beliefs and actions all into alignment so you can go through goals without feeling like you have to fight yourself, without feeling like you're constantly having false starts, you know, procrastinating, all that kind of stuff. You name it, I've done it. And I'm telling you, this process has helped me to shift so much of that. And recently I mentioned in my newsletter, I've actually got an entire book written that I've been procrastinating on for many years. That book is now off being edited. That's my book called 100% Yes, and you can look forward to that coming out. You know, I know this is working because it's been working for me, and it's really been working for people that I've used it with. And I also know that process I've been using has been working for many years, but now I'm adding in this intention process. And I'm going to teach you more about that as we go, because there's some really fine distinctions about applying it so you can leverage the results you get. So very quickly, here's the program. I'm offering it for $199. Your rate is $99, so it's actually less than half price. That will be for you and early birds. I'm going to send this out to my newsletter. They will have a little bit of time to get in at that rate. The bonus for you is if you go now, our operators are standing by. If you sign up now, within the next 24 hours from this webinar, then you will also get a copy of my 4-part series on peak performance using EFT and SET. This is actually the same seven-step process that I mapped out earlier. That's a recording of done with Jessica Ortner for the Tapping Insiders Club. It also includes a workbook that I've used in my peak performance workshops. We sell it for $37 on the website, and you're going to get it for free and get the $99 rate if you sign up here in the next 24 hours. So here's where the program is mapped out. It's www.EFTdownunder.com/go-for-it/. And on that page is all the information about the program. It's actually got the dates when things are happening. It's essentially this time around, it's going to be this time. So for those of you who've been able to make this time, hopefully it's really right for you. If we have enough interest, we'll start to look at other times for other parts of the world. This time it's more Europe friendly than US friendly. I apologize to my US and Canadian friends. Last thing I did was US friendly, so this time around I made it more Europe friendly. It's just kind of, in between those places. Anyway, I hope some of you will be able to get up and do that. Obviously all the stuff will be recorded, but I'm looking forward to working live with people. And yeah, it is good for Europe, hopefully. Valerie, thank you for saying that. And thank you all for being part of this time that I've just spent with you. I really hope that you found the stuff that we've done helpful. I appreciate you in an hour and a bit of your time, an hour and nearly 10 minutes now. So I must wrap this process up. Please go away and give it a go. It's like tapping. I was so surprised with tapping that it can get the results that it can get. This simple intention process, I reliably predict that a bunch of you are going to be blown away by this. So ciao, bye, see you later, au revoir. Oh my gosh, I just don't remember enough ways of saying goodbye. And thank you so much for joining me today. All right, I'm just going to go up here and turn off the recording, and then we're out of here.